Hi, I'm Faye Reineberg Holt, and thank you for joining me for Not Just a Journal 2, where we talk a little bit more about what you can do with your journal. Here you have a picture of a variety of types of journals. There's a day planner, the back one at the back. The one at the front is kind of special to me. It's just an old-fashioned journal. They had leather covers. They were very simple, ordinary paper inside, but those kinds of journals go back decades, in fact, probably hundreds of years, that people would write in them to keep track of what was going on in their lives. So you can have pretty or plain books. For me, this leather one was a prompt to remind me of what journals were like in the old days. But you might use scrapbooks or photo albums and have a photo and write in it what you remember from that particular photo and that time. Scrapbooks where you're cutting out pictures and using them to write about, or bring pictures with you that you can write about on a given day. Sketch pads have been great for artists, architects, builders of every sort. They may have drawings in them of what they plan to accomplish, and those are invaluable in the process of what they're building or going to paint or perhaps design. There are computer diaries, video journals, sound recordings that can become journals, and we'll talk more about them next day. Here you see some pictures that are art pictures. My husband took them. The first one, we were not in Egypt or in the Far East, the Middle East, but the picture was on a hotel. And so, or the sculpture was on the hotel. And here we thought that was really quite a amazing sculpture on that hotel, and it could be a beginning point for an imaginative journal about that time frame, or it could also accompany some research you're doing about the pharaohs. The second one is a picture of a flower, and I love gardening, but I have never seen flowers in quite the same way my husband will see them when he focuses on specific things that maybe I haven't been focusing on. So those are wonderful in a art book or a scrapbook to help us see in new ways. The third picture is a bug. Again, it's a sculpture on a building. But park rangers and naturalists have been keeping journals also for decades, perhaps even hundreds of years, to tell us what bugs were around, what birds were around, what animals were around. And we can see how the populations change over the years, what's now here and what isn't here. A writer's journal will often keep track of people, possibilities for characters, perhaps keep track of animals. They'll have places or settings, and they might try and describe them in great detail. They can have plots that the person wants to develop, or scenes or images, little bits of dialogue. And I've been on the sea train and overheard people talking, and it can be a real eye opener, something you want to write down before you forget it because it was so true to the time or the people that were talking. Certainly writers' journals will have symbols and thoughts in them, but also some people create dream journals. So they get up and first thing in the morning, they write down what they have been dreaming about, because if you don't write it down first thing in the morning, very frequently you will forget it. But they can have poems and stories or bits for articles. Interesting possibilities certainly include the animals we know about or the pets that we know about, and we might use those for stories, but also just to learn to see them more clearly and describe them more clearly. You could be writing about what you do for fun or for sports or for hobbies, and we can look at how sports change over the decades just by looking at somebody's journals or even their pictures. Be careful when you're writing about real people. Some people like attention and some people really don't like attention. And you want to recognize their right to privacy. Sometimes imaginative writers or story writers will change the names of those people, but realize someone else might be reading your journal, and what's in it might be bothersome. So try and respect other people's right to privacy. What are your thoughts or opinions about a subject? Now, editorials, letters to the editor, all those kinds of things are really opinion pieces, and you can write those in your journals and keep track of what you thought about things at a given time, and you will discover how your thoughts and opinions might change over the years. Ideas for today's journal, well, write about yesterday. When we write a journal first thing in the morning, nothing's been happening much. And so recording what happened yesterday can be very significant, just keeping track of it again before you forget it. You might describe your breakfast. Now, I was never particularly interested in people who wrote about their breakfasts, but if you don't have breakfast, if you're making breakfast for the first time for yourself or for others, breakfast could be very important in your day. And so, again, that's something you could actually legitimately write about. Are you doing chores now that you've never done in the past? And how do you feel about those chores? Or maybe you're doing chores to help someone else. And that's a wonderful thing to keep track of too. You'll see your own progress with how easy those chores become, but also how many people or who you've helped along the way. I like describing favorite places, and here's a picture of my husband and I in the Kananaskis doing one of our many hikes. So descriptions of those hikes can be worthwhile to those who like that activity. The other one, we were in Mexico, and in most places you can't climb the pyramids anymore, but this was a particular one that we could climb. I climbed halfway up, but I didn't go to the very top. And sometimes we don't finish things. In this case, I didn't go to the top because I knew coming down was going to be harder for me than going up. And in reality, when I did come down, I kind of slid down on my butt, but it was wonderful to go halfway to the top. Um, Also record what's happening near you to other people or to your community. That's very valuable in a journal. So that's something you might work with. Or what have you liked or disliked for clothes or books? Lots of people are watching a lot of TV or movies these days, and you could do a movie review in your journal. What was good about it? What didn't work for you about it? So thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you'll join me for Not Just a Journal 3, and good luck with your journals. I hope you get lots of writing done and you just keep on writing.